A very good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to this week's first edition of the Evening Review. My name is Toibon Jabela, your host. Let's look at today's headlines. Tonight on the show, we are joined by Mbeuta Ua-Ndjarakana. He is obviously a descendant of the victims of the genocide that took place in Namibia between 1904 to 1908. Of course, we know Mbeuta as Executive Director in the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, but he's not speaking in that capacity tonight. Sir, welcome to the show tonight. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Welcome to you and the viewers.
Yeah, wonderful. Last week, the unthinkable happened. You called a press conference. You announced your resignation from Swapo after 39 years of your association with the party, and your reasoning at the time was that you are simply not happy with the way the party has handled the genocide matter. Tell us more about that. What exactly is it that drove you into that bold decision?
Thank you very much. You correctly indicated or pointed out that I'm a descendant of the victims of the 1904-1908 genocide by German imperial forces in our country here, among the Overherero, Ambanderu, and the Nama. And I'm not the only descendant. We are hundreds of thousands that are scattered across the globe, and mainly in Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, and other territories, both in Africa and elsewhere. And we were wronged unpardonably. Extermination orders were issued against our existence, that we had to be wiped of the face of the earth, of this land of the brave. And fortunately, there was no pursuit into neighboring countries where our forebears escaped to or fled to. And hence we have citizens in those neighboring countries, namely Botswana and South Africa. Not only citizens of those countries whose blood is originally from Namibia, but by the cruelty of that history, their umbilical cords had to be cut in those territories. They are our relatives, direct relatives. I have brothers and sisters, same father, same mother, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces in Botswana, and you can also find them in South Africa when we trace our roots. So the liberation struggle that I joined, for which I joined the party that I parted ways with, was to complete our restorative justice, to remove apartheid colonialism from the land of our forefathers and foremothers, to rectify and repair the damages and harms that were done on our foreparents and ourselves, because the dislocations, the loss of land, the loss of livestock, the loss of our culture, mutilation of our culture, all those caused a serious monumental drawback on our identity, on our dignity. And until we breathe the last breath generationally, we will have to wage this struggle against that dark past for the German government to own up to its misdeeds. Fortunately, Imperial German forces were under a government, unlike us in Namibia, who were not under a government. We were existing people of God under our traditional leaders. Therefore, for 31 years, we have not seen any of these issues being taken on the agenda of our country. Of course, that by extension speaks to the ruling party not having taken any of these issues on board. Until as recent as 2006, when late Paramount Chief of the Waherero, his soul rest in peace, Kwaima Rirwako, took a motion to the National Assembly. And that was after he had started a court case in the Americas on this issue. Then there was a unanimous adoption of this motion that had three prayers. One is for Germany to recognize and admit and recognize that they committed genocide on our communities of the time, and that the victims of, they are descendants of those victims. The other is to pay damages in form of reparations and to do anything that will restore justice to these communities. Of course, when these things happen by any thread of extension, they will affect Namibians, Botswana, and South Africans, where we find ourselves now scattered. If there are schools to be built, if there are agricultural establishments, plantations, as a way of dealing abroad to hunger and poverty, they will be shared by nationals and citizens of those countries, but having mainly been directed towards undoing the injustice that was meted on our communities. This has not come to the fore. When voices or a voice did try to raise this, it was just brushed aside, laughed off, or scoffed off. And for everything there is time. For everything there is time. Of course, we joined the current ruling party as a liberation movement to bring about freedom and independence. And everybody has repeatedly echoed the words that freedom and independence are not edible. You can just experience, it's just creating a space for you to actually continue to chart your destiny. So I moved from politics to exist as a natural civil citizen that can take up now the cause for the reparations and restorative justice on our communities.
Indeed. Now, Mr. Ua-Ndjarakana, when you say, okay, when you quit the party, and you have quite explained it very well there, but the rationale, is it because at your press conference you obviously say that, and you echoed it now, that there's this sense of brushing things aside whenever they were raised internally within the party. So did you quit the party because you feel that there's no value in being part of it in the context of this big struggle, or is it because you feel you can wage a better war outside the party?
Look, genocide, the cost on genocide for reparations and restorative justice it's humanitarian. Yeah. It's not political in large scale. And with alignment to either a traditional authority or to a political party, there is always that marring of proper understanding, because everybody would like to stand by their shade. So I wanted to shed off that, so that nobody thinks I'm pursuing a political agenda, because this matter is not political. And perhaps that's why it has not been considered for all this long. It's humanitarian, and I felt I needed to free myself, become a free citizen from political affiliation, from political influence, from any political connotation that would be associated with me. And that's why I went public. I had a right to go submit my membership, hitherto membership card and resignation letter quietly and keep quiet. But then I had to make everybody be aware that I have now switched my battleground on genocide, reparations, and restorative justice. You will recall that I referred to the 2006 motion that had 3 prayers. Subsequent to that, there has been negotiations between the 2 governments, Germany and Namibia, and they have not. Those negotiations have not stayed on the course of the motion. We feel shortchanged, and therefore the struggle continues that we should stay the course as per that motion. You will also realize that that motion had its shortcoming in that it did not, of course, due to the territorial nature of the setup of Parliament, that it could not cover our brothers and sisters in Botswana, our brothers and sisters in South Africa, and in other areas or in the globe. So much that we need now to look into those issues and see how do we marshal our forces together and face the German government to come to its senses and speak to our issue. The issue that is being trumpeted now, it's the issue of a joint agreement on projects funding. The motion never spoke for projects funding. And therefore, and as we know, the German government has been priding itself all these 31 years that it is the highest foreign aid giver to Namibia. So if through this motion they thought they were going to ride and say we are not going to call it an increase in the bilateral development aid to Namibia, but we would rather call it something else that speaks hoodwinkingly to the issue of genocide, reparations, and restorative justice. We are not blind, we are not deaf, we are not naive to be misled to believe this is what we demanded for through that motion.
Indeed. Do you think, Mr. Ua-Ndjarakana, that because obviously, okay, in fairness, Swapo is the ruling party, but the body that has been negotiating, like you said, is these 2 governments. Last week when you announced your resignation from the party, some people said, but why is Mbeuta leaving Swapo while maintaining his government job when government is actually the one that is at fault, if anything, as far as these negotiations are concerned? How do you respond to that?
Have you not heard Swapo and its government all these years? And serving in government is not the same as serving the party. The party is an entity unto its own. There is no membership card for serving in the public through government. And therefore I don't see the intertwining relationship between the 2. Serving the government, serving the people, it's very, very important, because we liberated the country to bring services to the citizens of the country and not to certain members of society on the basis of their affiliation. And therefore I feel comfortable continuing to render my service, humble service for that matter. From each individual only comes a humble contribution of what you can make to assist the betterment of the lives of other people.
Indeed. Now, there are proponents, a few of them, of course, proponents of this deal reached with Germany. I think if I remember correctly, there was even a long explanation written by the president's spokesperson, Dr. Alfredo Hengari, a couple of months ago. I think it was around May when this deal first came to the fore. And his argument essentially was that, and not only him, a few others believe that this was a huge breakthrough, it was a huge victory, because negotiating a small country as ours, negotiating and being able to convince a powerhouse like Germany to eventually agree to the terms that they have agreed on was such a monumental breakthrough victory for Namibia, and therefore they believe that it's actually a huge win. How do you respond to those people who hold that view?
Namibia is the biggest country in my life, and that's why Germans, Imperial Germans, would come here to steal our country, our land, our resources, kill our people, in fact, issue extermination orders to wipe whole communities of the faith of the earth. So I don't go with the belittling of Namibia. Now, if you belittle yourself, I'm sure then you are telling us you went to request for project funding for €1 million, and therefore since you got €1.1 billion, you can brag and say it's a huge achievement. That is their problem. That is their agenda. That is their program. If that is what they went for, cap in hand, feeling too small, and going for an increase in the development aid, and only to be told instead of the few millions you are begging for, we are giving you a 1.1 billion, and mind you, that will be for as long as your current age, 30 years time, the current age of your country, 30 years time, and that can still be trumpeted to be a huge success. I will not dismiss it because it's a huge success for the agenda and item by those who negotiated and who moved that negotiation, but not for us.
Good point. And then we hear now that Parliament is resuming this week, and high on the agenda is this subject. A week ago, when the late Kadenamba was buried at Farm Okapuka, and politicians were giving their tributes, and people like Mark Henry Venani actually brought up that subject and how Kadenamba was an important tool within the fight against this deal. And Vice President Nangola Mbumba said, just wait, we are going to Parliament now and we're going to discuss this thing. Do you think Parliament, in its current setup, the majority of the MPs, their ruling party, who are likely to defend their party and their party government, like you called it earlier, do you think Parliament is a platform at all to reverse this deal? Do you think there's any chance at all that we may miraculously see Parliament come to a consensus that this deal is indeed bad, and therefore it has to go back to the negotiation, to the drawing board?
It's always good to give people the benefit of doubt. Parliamentarians are honorable members who were elected by the people of Namibia. Even if a party emerged to be victorious, there was a democratic competition. I'm sure the victory party needs to respect those votes, including the votes of the affected communities in this particular instance, and retain its honorability by listening to the voices of the affected communities and not to the voice of the negotiating team. Because even if there were negotiations, they were done, or we believe they should have been done on behalf of the affected communities or for the affected communities. Although of course, with the raping of the motion, the way it has come out now. Remember, the motion indicated it should be the affected communities and the German government, the affected communities in the company of their government as an interested party, but not as the lead negotiator. That is what the motion reads. For everybody, for anybody who reads what is written, that is how the motion reads. And therefore, that's why we are calling on the National Assembly and Parliament to hear the voices of the affected communities, which they should ordinarily be representing within the body of the Namibian citizenry. And I would not speculate that men and women in the National Assembly will pay a blind ear to these cries, to these calls by affected communities, not to go ahead, not to affirm, not to give a stamp of approval to this deal, if it is in the name of genocide, reparations, and restorative justice. But if it is a German government out of its own goodwill giving a special vehicle for aiding Namibia's development, owing to its historical responsibility, as per its 1989 and 2004 parliamentary resolutions, we will not have a problem with that. The problem is not this deal to mar the road on our struggle to real reparations and restorative justice.
Mr. Ua-Ndjarakana, tell me about of course, the general view is that Germany is actually being very arrogant in their approach to this subject, despite what they are reported to have given, 18.4 billion. Now, that is just Germany. That injustice that you spoke about is evident here on the ground, where there are people who have benefited from that ugly legacy, and they continue to benefit from that legacy today by being occupants of the land from which your people, our people, were removed from. Do you think that the local beneficiaries of this system have also a role to play, probably even more than the Germans, by recognizing the past and recognizing that they are sitting on land from which their fellow countrymen now were removed forcefully, sometimes through the barrel of the gun? What is it that the local German community and others who have benefited from this scheme can do to help restore justice?
Being a reader, the 1989 Bundestag resolution, parliamentary resolution, its main objective was to protect the interest of descendants of Germany in Namibia. Now, our brothers and sisters, Namibian Germans, being godly people, should really be real and say, we got this stolen inheritance from our brothers and sisters. And the Federal Republic of Germany is not Namibia. It's far away from us. We need peaceful, brotherly and sisterly coexistence in Namibia. How do we bring about our contribution in easing the burden of poverty, the burden of injustice on our brothers, on our Namibian brothers and sisters from the affected communities? However small that contribution could be, it should be visible, tangible, something you can feel. It should be from the hearts of the Namibian Germans to say we acknowledge wrong was done, that benefited us, that continues to benefit us, and therefore we are coming out to engage you. They must engage. They shouldn't go into a wardrobe and pull out a suit and say, wear it, whether it's your size or not. They should feel free to engage us, so that even when we face the German government, we can eventually face the German government together as Namibians, them as paying solidarity to their brothers and sisters in Namibia. Remember, there is the issue of land redistribution that has not taken honest route in our country. I'm saying that because your typical brother that you are talking to, being a descendant of genocide, I returned to this country 32 years ago. I have no plot on which I have been resettled. I've been applying, like, if you like, and if they would always perhaps enjoy to say, like a mad person, meeting all the requirements. And you know, our resettlement program has no feedback to applicants why you have not been successful. And that's why even the list of people who have been so far been resettled has remained a godly top secret. Not godly, you understand what I mean, because it carries no transparency. And that's why some of us and many of us are not beneficiaries of this resettlement program, because the people that never lost land are the ones who are in the driving seat of resettlement. They resettle themselves.
Exactly.
So we have people, as I alluded to earlier, in Botswana and South Africa, particularly in Botswana, who have expressed a desire to return to the land of their forebearers. 3-4 years ago, budgets have been allocated to buy land to repatriate these people. Of course, I know everything now. We are hiding behind COVID-19. But among those people, there are people who felt tired of the wait and came themselves. Some have fortunately found employment here and there. They are not even being resettled on those farms. Few farms that were bought for the people to be repatriated. Those farms are standing idle. Perhaps they are candidates for vandalism, and these people have no place that they can say they have returned to Namibia. They have been housed by relatives, by friends. They cannot. They have no. There is nothing on the ground to appetize them to begin stable lives, because land is critical. And these are people from farming families. The best business they would know would be animal husbandry and crop farming, and there is no welcome to them in that regard. They are in their tens. They are not even 100 people. So we had the second land conference in recent years. I'm sure we are into the fourth year now. Nothing has come of it with regard to ancestral land claims. Immediately after the second land conference, everything became taboo because of the laws that we have. Most of everything. So there are meetings that are not yielding, not even a drop in the ocean to the aspirant beneficiaries from these programs. So these are issues that we need to pursue and engage on and drive forcefully. Now, for you referred to Germany, Namibia being a small country or even a small population, you can reduce that to a small people. Remember the story of David and Goliath. Remember, in Namibia we started everything for our freedom and independence peacefully. We engaged diplomatically, and eventually we went armed struggle. Eventually we liberated our country. Affected communities are going to do it peacefully, diplomatically, and otherwise.
Indeed.
With time.
With time. The last question to you, Mr. Ua-Ndjarakana, therefore, is you spoke about taboo. And one of the taboos in contemporary history of our country is that when a man like yourself, who is in a government bureaucracy, in the government system, stands up on principle like you did, to say, I do not, in my good conscience, stand with this kind of manners, this kind of acts, this kind of behaviors, the history has always taught us that that's a taboo in our country, and somehow there will be consequences of some sort. People wanting to find fault in you at work, and wanting to fire you, wanting to isolate you and alienate you. Is that something that you have considered when you've taken this decision, and are you prepared for any of such actions if they ever arise?
When I joined the liberation struggle, not in exile out of Botswana, but in Botswana at the age of 19, I knew my friends' liberation struggle of a country other than Botswana, Namibia. I knew my friends would become fewer. I knew my parents would not all, maybe my mother and father and my uncle, close uncle, would understand, because it was through them that I gained the consciousness. But other family members would wonder, this guy has gone to school and now he's into politics of Namibia, liberation struggle. So I knew for every decision that you take, there will always be consequences. And most of them are not positive, except for the ones that you know on the objective on which you are taking that decision. Those are positive from the word go. But I would like to give the system the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to speculate in that direction, because the colleagues that I'm working with have not been and are not beasts. To me, they are fellow Namibians. We have a mandate to fulfill the delivery of services to Namibians, and I have not moved away from delivering services for Namibians. If I have been capable all along, I should continue with my capability. In fact, I'm left with less than 2 years, with months, to clock my retirement time. But I'm prepared for if the devil was to come down on earth and face my life, I am prepared. But I would not call Namibians the devil. But anybody who chooses to go to bed with the devil, I'm prepared.
Indeed. Mbeuta Ua-Ndjarakana, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's Mbeuta Ua-Ndjarakana. He is a descendant of the victims of the 1904-1908 genocide, speaking to us about his decision, unprecedented, many would say, to quit the ruling party recently because of its failure to address that very important subject in the history of our country. Thank you for watching.
Ian is a high-performance guy who understands how to support and unlock the potential of his sales team to achieve success. As part of the Paratus Group's sales, Ian Grasso shares his expertise to support and empower his team while innovating solutions that take their service offering to the next level. Now, outside of the office, he is known to cook up a storm, and he enjoys extreme sports. We welcome Ian to Game Changers.
Thank you.
Let's get right into it. How would you describe yourself?
So from my side, I would say energetic.
Okay.
A team player, a team builder. I like sharing my knowledge with staff and with colleagues. A fighter. Don't give up. Yeah, that I've learned also from one of the extreme sports, I guess, would be mountain biking. So don't give up. You can always, even if you have a flat tire or something like that, somewhere along the line, you're going to catch your opponent. Perhaps your opponent also gets a flat tire.
Yeah.
So don't give up. And aggressive at times, very friendly, loving.
A lot going on there. Yeah. Apart from putting together the most beautiful recipes in the kitchen, what else do you enjoy in your free time? You mentioned cycling.
Yes. So the recipe is all put together with a glass of red wine. Very important.
Very important.
So I enjoy mountain biking, road cycling. I been trying a bit of swimming. Not easy if you weren't brought up with swimming.
Yeah.
Camping, red wine tasting, and a little bit of jogging.
Just enough.
Yeah. I don't want to overdo it because the knees are a bit cranky.
So most of the cardio comes in from the cycling.
Yes.
We'll take that. So let's get to the root of it. You've been with Paratus for 17 years.
Crazy. Huh?
Long time. What was the most game-changing moment of your time there so far that you can think back on?
Sure. There have been many.
Yeah.
Because for us, in the sales department, obviously in sales, it's all about building up a relationship, getting the customer, getting them to sign. So it's been an exciting 17 years, and actually doesn't really feel like 17 years. It feels more like 3 years at times, It's all gone by so fast. So there's been a few, as I said, and one of the game changers that does stand out is we sold a ring connectivity solution to a customer. So connecting all of their branches in all of their countries throughout Southern Africa, where we have connectivity, giving them one big ring, and it's a bank that we did this for, connecting them to South Africa, to their HQ. And so that was an exciting project to work on from the start, to giving them the ideas. We actually presented them with the idea. They liked the idea, quoted them, they signed off, and implementation. That was exciting indeed.
Game changing indeed. Now we spoke briefly about cooking up a storm and recipes. What would you say are the magic ingredients that you use personally to achieve success, and maybe as part of your team as well?
So from a work perspective, for me, I still kind of believe in old school. Still, customer is always first. Customer is right. So from my side, customer is right. Service. Very important. Makes us different. We stand out. And then from building the customer. So building customer so you go in, build a relationship, offer the service. Customer signs, keep on building the relationship, grow it, and try and offer more services for the customer. So it's not a case of just going in, signing, leaving. But try and keep that relationship with the customer. And sometimes they even become friends. They come visit you at the office, have a coffee. Yes.
I just want to pick the brain just one last time. Quick fire questions before I let you go.
Sure. Okay.
Nothing intrusive or invasive.
All right.
First thing that comes to your mind. Time or money?
I know. Everyone should money.
Money.
Yes.
More money to make more time.
You're correct.
Or more money buys you more time.
Well, apparently.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Invisibility or flight?
Flight.
The ability to fly.
Yes.
I think that's one I'll choose as well. Lastly, if you could be stuck in an elevator with one person, dead or alive, for a 5-10 minute conversation, who would it be and why?
That's a good one. I think just for the hell of it, Mick Jagger.
Ooh. That's going to be the best 10 minutes.
I don't know what I'm going to ask him, but maybe I can't put it on air.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to find out about his life, from what he can remember, I guess.
Yeah. Mick Jagger it is.
Mick Jagger must be quite a character to talk to.
I can imagine. Thank you so much for joining us, Ian, our game changer. And thank you for joining us for yet another episode, an insightful episode of Game Changers, brought to us by Paratus. Catch us again next week as we speak with another member of the Paratus team who is changing the game.